Welcome to the Maria Heller Show, the internet's original podcast. Since the year 2000, always ahead of the curve, always on your side. A true warrior for truth and justice, Maria and her guests leave nothing out, and no one is off limits. There is only one truth, the rest is lies. Sit back, enjoy the education with a true daughter of Mother Earth. Sharp New York wit, spiritual knowing, and a very dry sense of humor, Maria will dissect the news and lies to make it all palatable. Education is power. Maria delivers rapid-fire truth like no one else can. Here she is, the mouth that roars, the legendary Maria Heller.
Good morning, world. Maria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to Stars Are Us, the monthly astrology show I do with Joseph Anthony every month. If you're not familiar with Joe's work, he's everywhere now. Check out his YouTube channel. Get over to planetswithin.com. And there's live links here, of course. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning.
Well, how are you today?
I'm feeling good. Even though I gave up caffeine, I'm feeling pretty good.
Maybe you picked the wrong year to give up caffeine.
Well, with all this crazy energy, I feel like I don't need it.
Right.
Because whatever it's doing, it's motivating me.
Well, you know, January was quite the month, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, as we talked about in December and in January, how this year is going to be a transformational year, and even indicated by the Chinese astrology, the year of the rooster, the Fire Rooster, and which is all about motivation, speaking out, restlessness, irritability, you know, and we already see a lot of that.
Right.
We can feel it. So,
right.
Not surprising one bit.
No, not at all. Well, talk about irritability, motivation, you're looking at all these protests that continue every day. I get stories of huge protests. But one of the protests actually won this morning, so I posted that right away. And that was, yesterday I reported that the Republicans were trying to put through a bill to sell off 3.3 million acres of public land. And it got so much flack from social media and people's responses that they got rid of the bill this morning.
Good. Well, you know, as I've been saying, and many others have been saying, this is a wake-up time. This is a time to wake up and move away from the controlling factors, whether it's the Republicans in the United States here, or the religion, or it's the international bankers. Whatever it is, we seem to be waking up to this controlling, mechanism,
right.
And we're pushing away from it. It's like something internally is saying we need to rebel. Now, we could do this in a peaceful way, through social media and continuing to put pressure on these people,
right.
Or we could do it in the way that these people are rioting in the streets and venting and the frustration coming out and all this other stuff. So we have the choice. Which one will it be?
Right. Right. Well, I'm glad my job is to observe and report.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, January came in with a bang, left with a bigger bang. We've had nothing but more bangs every day. It's like I wake up and say, okay, God, what's going on in the world today? And there's a sense of trepidation, and I think that Arnold Schwarzenegger said it best in his response to Donald Trump at his prayer meeting, talking about the ratings on The Apprentice and slamming Schwarzenegger. And what Schwarzenegger said was, how about we change jobs? But his most important sentence was, so people can sleep at night again.
Mm-hmm.
So it describes perfectly, even some of the TV shows I watched had that theme of fear now that Trump is in and showing both sides of the coin. Is that a normal thing that people are having such a strong reaction, stronger than ever before with any stolen election?
Well, I don't think, I try and look at things on a larger scale, and what this time frame represents, and we all of the astrologers try to do this, is a time of letting go of old beliefs, old ideologies, old ways of doing things, unfortunately, Trump represents that old mentality of business as usual.
Right.
We're entering sort of a golden age of spirituality where we're awakening. We realize that we're connected to the earth and the planet, that we are all connected to the source that runs through us. And so part of the rebellion is that most of the population does not understand what is actually happening or taking place. Obviously, they haven't watched my video on what is happening to the world. But my point being is that the frustration is deep within, the irritation is deep within, because the psyche can't handle what's happening to them on a spiritual level, on an energetic level. So they need someone to direct that energy towards. You know, on the right, you have the Muslims. People, if they're following politics, it's going to be Trump or the left. Mm-hmm. No matter what it is, it's the anger and frustration really internally that is not being able to express itself in some way. So it's got to have a boogeyman. It's got to have somebody to point it at and direct it.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying these people are not part of the problem, but we have to start looking at a larger scale. Now, astrologically speaking, Maria, we know that this year, the first couple of months, is very volatile because of the astrological alignments that are occurring.
Right.
We just had a new moon in Aquarius at the end of January. Aquarius is explosive energy. So what do? We see more protests. We see more anger. We see more frustration. You know, and Aquarius represents humanity. And so what is humanity doing? Not just in this country. We see protests around the world. France is going through more over there. And I read something about, I think it was Belgium. I mean, there are people just feeling the energy.
Right.
And on top of that, one more thing, Mary. We have Mars going through Aries. This represents the warrior. This represents the conflict. So people are feeling this energy, and needing to go into battle, if you will, with themselves, with others, with another, whatever it is. They're feeling the energy, and they're directing it at people who they think is responsible for it.
Right.
Make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I got to tell you, it's everywhere. It's not just politics. You know, This morning I put up 2 videos so far of the chemtrails here, which we're now in our 4th day. And I posted them and shared them on specific chemtrail sites. And one of the sites, which I've subsequently unjoined, they just started ripping me to pieces. And I'm like, is this supposed to be a site about geoengineering? And why are people attacking me for posting a video saying, you know, it's just condensation, you know, what's wrong with you? And, you know, what about my personal habits? And, you know, what about hemlock? I mean, I just looked at that and I was like, wow, what kind of site is this? You know, if they're looking for the truth on geoengineering, why are they all responding like trolls? But you could see the anger even in people's comments on a chemtrail video. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm used to that in vegetarian groups, which I find the most hostility. And that, you know, holier than thou thing. And that's the way, you know, I've dropped off so many groups because I'm like, these people are, you know, certainly not presenting their information in a way that anybody's going to want to handle it or even pay attention to it. So it just looks like everybody's gone mad.
Exactly. Now, I've meditated on this, and I keep getting the same information, that the frequency is changing. And I believe I sent you something on the Schumann resonance.
Yes, you
supposedly,
did.
And there was some proof there showing a spike in the energy field around the planet. The highest it's ever been at, I believe, is 36 hertz. Normally it vibrates at 7.8, and then it spikes up occasionally to 12 and 13, but they're saying 36 hertz. Now, this is incredible because we are feeling something. And again, what I was shown intuitively and through research is that these waves of energy come in and they bombard the Earth, and this has been proven by some of the amateur astronomers taking measurements in space from, you know, some of the equipment up there, that these waves are, how should I put it? They're not something we're used to. And so the average person is kind of losing their minds. I hate to say it. There's no other way to put it. They're like they're losing their minds, their sense of equilibrium, their sense of reality, because the walls are coming down. Between realities, it's coming down, and I see it, I sense it, I feel it myself. There's also this incredible need, or we're picking up something about the past, because I've had many people say, are we in a Mercury retrograde? Are we in some sort of retrograde? Because things are acting really strange, and I'm connecting with people from the past and all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I can only give them the answer that I know of, is that in astrology, we also have Saturn, which represents karma, squaring Chiron, which represents a wounding from the past. Mm-hmm. And so we are experiencing that as well, Maria. And so between these two, there is this feeling of inadequacy, or something that was done to us or we experienced from the past, not just in this lifetime, many other lifetimes, or something that we realized was wrong, and it's bringing it back up, and it's like we're having to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And so it's not comfortable, because the energy is ramped up, these memories and these feelings from the past are being brought up, and people are reacting instantaneously. They're just totally reacting against the currents, or flowing with the frustration current, which is the theme right now.
Right.
And so this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I'm sensing. Unfortunately, this month, I'm sorry to say, folks, the energy is not going to get any better.
So are you seeing more of the same? Are you seeing more protest? Are you seeing more exposure? Because there is a lot of exposure happening.
Yes.
About a lot of people, a lot
Yes.
of things. Yesterday they try to create a situation with Iran based on lies. Very much, first thing I thought of was the Gulf of Tonkin and Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And then I'm looking at the protest, and I'm like, wow, I haven't seen anything like this since the 60s. And a lot of writers are commenting and comparing it to, and saying they haven't seen anything like this since Vietnam. So could that also be part of it, like reliving the past?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, and we've talked about this before. There's a battle going on behind the scenes. You have the military-industrial complex, the banking system, the progressives, whatever. All these groups, these factional groups behind the scenes, beyond Washington, that are, sitting somewhere and are trying to plan their next move. We know that the dollar is collapsing around the world. People do not want to use it anymore. The other countries have already said, we're going to a gold standard, we're going away from the petrodollar. So you have one faction that's trying to instill a new currency, or no currency at all, just moving away completely from money and just going to digital currency. Right. And they tried to implement that in India,
right,
with these ATM cards and all this stuff. And so, and the brain trust behind it was Bill Gates and Goldman Sachs. Okay, so we know that they're trying to do something with the monetary system. And the war situation is to keep the frequency low on the planet. Remember, you keep people in chaos, they're easier to control. They're easier to not wake up. And that's part of the dynamic as well. So what I believe that Trump and his administration and all his Goldman Sachs buddies in there, and I still... I'm starting to see the picture of what Trump represents and what he's there to do, but of course it's not clear because he's only been there a month for me. So I have no opinion. I'm just looking at everything.
Right.
He is representing the financial side of things because he's a businessman and he's got all these Goldman Sachs people on his administration. And so they're trying to implement a new system, and he may be the face of it. He may be the salesman for this new system. He's the motivator. He's trying to, rah, get people back to work, and, he's trying to bring these companies back to the United States. But the bottom line is it's not going to work because you have to fix the monetary system.
Right.
That is the issue. And so if we don't have an honest monetary system that is not based on fiat currency and nothing backing it, it's not going to make a hell of a difference what comes back to this country. You see? Mm-hmm. So I think that's what he represents. That's what that one faction of the global powers that shouldn't be are representing. versus the other ones that are saying, no, let's go to war, let's keep them, disheveled and disembobulated, and let them fight against each other, and so on and so forth. But make no mistake, whatever it is that's happening, the old system is dying. Okay?
Right. I just see this administration as a last gasp to try to keep the old system in place. But he's got to notice that every single thing he does is bringing people out by the hundreds of thousands protesting. So, to me, the tipping point is way past what people are going to accept.
Well, and again, this is what all the strategy is that's going on behind the scenes. This is, the motivation behind some of the moves he's making and the executive orders and all that other stuff that's going on. Those are breadcrumbs. He's trying to feed his base and so on. But this other frustration that's happening with the riots and stuff, I mean, this is absolutely being orchestrated. Someone is putting these huge groups together, funding them, and organizing them in some level, because you just don't have 10, 20,000 people show up somewhere, with signs and so on. This has to be some sort of preparation. But my point being is this is all being done artificially. So while everyone is watching riots and protests, I'm watching videos and information on what's really going on behind the scenes with the powers that shouldn't be, because they always divert attention from one thing, because mainstream media blows it up, and it puts fuel on the fire, while they're doing other things behind the scenes.
Exactly.
And so I'm trying to focus on the behind the scenes nonsense, and not so much on the stupidity of rioting and what this guy did and what that guy did. Right. I want to know the bigger picture of what the hell's going on.
Well, you've talked for years about a change to the monetary system, and what they're doing with testing out a cashless society in India, which destroyed the people of India. They're also testing out a monthly stipend in the Netherlands, I believe, where they're getting ready for when AI takes everybody's jobs. They're testing to see how people can get along if the government just hands them X amount of money every month. So it kind of looks like you're right, and they're trying to figure out, because they can talk about bringing jobs back, but at the same time, the robot movement is happening at the speed of light. And they are preparing for the day that, people aren't going to have jobs. Everything's going to be supplemented by robots until they get their transhumanism done. So it's interesting to see. And to me, these are all test cases. What they do in one place is a test for what they want to do somewhere else.
And you're absolutely right, Maria. And I would totally agree with you with the IA, the artificial intelligence. Absolutely. That is the path that they're going down. And then controlling that. And that's all, that's what all that chipping stuff was all about, the talk when Aaron Russo talked about people being chipped and all of that, and getting away from the monetary system. It's all about controlling the population. Absolutely.
Right. Well, it goes back, it goes back to reliving the past, like I said a little earlier to you, in the 60s, when they first started coming out with credit cards. Okay, because people may not know this, but there really weren't credit cards available to people before the 60s. They didn't exist. And as soon as they started coming out with credit cards, a lot of people started movements saying that the government was determined to move us to a cashless society, which of course people laughed at. But when you look at today, where everything's online and everything is digital, and you look at India and you look at these countries testing out, giving people basically, a living stipend every month, that goes back to what I've been saying for years. These people never step off their target. If it takes them 40, 50, 100 years, they always seem to stay focused on what they want. Mm-hmm. So you got to give them that. You got to give them a big A for stickability.
Absolutely, that's right. Part of the clique at the highest level. Mm-hmm. But when I look at people doing things like protesting and the passion and the energy there, I just wish they would direct it to places that really have the power.
Exactly.
Like, go protest in front of the Federal Reserve buildings, or go protest in front of Goldman Sachs. You know what I'm saying? Because these are the places that the real the monopoly in power is taking place. Go protest in front of the Vatican because that's the controlling mechanism and where it all leads to.
Right.
But, so, and I'm totally in agreement with what you just said, Maria. And so their plans are to go down this road and to control humanity. But, and they also factored in that humanity was going to wake up to a certain extent. I don't think they factored in it was going to wake up as fast as it's doing now.
Right, or en masse as it is.
Exactly. So I think the more you and I and your listeners and people that are awake and are getting it, continue to just inform people. Hey, look at the bigger picture. Look what's going on. The faster the system will collapse. And so, or it transform in some way. Not that I want the whole system to collapse. I want, like many other people, to take the power out of the hands of the small elite that are running this planet into the toilet, pardon my French.
Right. Well, hey, I totally agree with that. But you know what I find interesting is the people are starting to wake up to who the real enemy is. And, the other night, like you, I was meditating. And I was looking for the answers, okay? And I got a sentence that I thought was pretty damn good, and I posted it. They want civil war, but people have to realize this is class warfare. And if they can understand this is that the upper class is the problem, especially with a billionaire cabinet running the country now, they can put that energy and their vote, the only vote they have that matters, their dollars, behind not supporting these people, their corporations, their businesses. I know that I saw a story this morning that Elon Musk, since he's counseling Donald Trump, people are canceling their Tesla orders and they're letting him know why. So I tell people it's not enough to take your money away from these businesses. I'm sure you saw what happened to Uber 2 weeks ago with Trump. You need to let them know why. And that truly is the only vote people have that matters. If this election didn't teach them that, nothing will.
Well, it is a rebel against the system, and I totally understand that, and we see this. But again, what's the cause of it? The cause of it is that the monetary system at the very fundamental level is only benefiting those at the very top. In other words, they print money out of nowhere. They give it to themselves, the banks, and they use it to buy to buy resources, to buy gold, to prop up these other companies that are in trouble, you see? And so, yes, you do vote with your pocket, all right? And so pay attention. Who are like Starbucks got some backlash too.
Right.
I read about that. So, yes, this could make a difference when you start not feeding into or supporting the banks. The one that gets me the most, and this is the one that irritates me the most, is when I hear friends who know what's going on, but yet they still bank with Chase Manhattan Bank.
Right.
It irritates the hell out of me.
I understand. I took my money out of the big banks, what little money I have, about at least 15 years ago. And I let them know why, very loudly, in front of everybody in a packed bank in Scottsdale. I let people know why. I haven't shopped a Walmart ever, okay? So, it just seems like other people are finally catching up to things that I've been doing for 20 years and suggesting they do, but I guess the stars weren't aligned for everybody to get the message at that time.
Right. Well, as I've been saying all along and on your show and on presentations, the average person doesn't have the capacity to dig deeper. What is reality? What's really going on? It's a simplistic existence, okay? But deep down, those of us that do know what's going on, we know it's a financial issue, a currency issue. We know it's a power structure issue. We know that the world is waking up issue. I mean, so, what we have to start realizing is that the way we exchange energy and value for each other is through this worthless paper. And so we've got to start looking at ourselves in a different way. How do we create real value? Bartering, actually.
Right.
I buy and make this, you make that, great. I'll give you this venue for so many. I mean, that is real energy exchange. And I'm not saying we go back to it. Maybe we should on some
maybe
level.
we'll have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I just hope that people continue to just watch things at a larger scale about what's going on. And I mean, I read a lot of different things, and I'm seeing the indicators around the world. The shipping companies have all this, inventory on their ships, and they can't ship it because they can't get paid. They don't want the dollar. So, I mean, we're seeing a systematic slowdown. And once again, this is why I think they brought Trump in. They allowed him to get in there because, cut some deals and make this happen. And, because America, let's face it, basically the rest of the economy feeds off of America, if you will. And with that, it keeps the petrodollar moving so that the Federal Reserve could keep printing phony money. So it's going to change, Maria. The next few years, it's pivotal. It's going to shift into something new. And I've been saying all along, we're going to have a new currency. I've already seen a lot of speculation on what the new currency is going to look like. It's going to be backed by gold. China has offered to put up their gold at 13% interest to back a new currency. So, I mean, you got Bitcoin. So, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on that's not in mainstream, that you're not going to hear in mainstream.
Right.
And so I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm hoping people will continue to look at the bigger picture and not just focus their anger at Washington, even though that is a cesspool over there.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
So,
well, are you following Trump astrologically as a Gemini and as to what his chart shows?
I looked at it occasionally, but I actually meditated about 2 weeks ago. I sat down and I had Trump's chart in front of me, and I pulled a few cards as I'm tuning into him. And the first thing I got was, this is before the protests, whatever that was, a couple of weeks ago, that he was going to have trouble the first 3 to 4 months of this year. Okay? And that was intuitive, looking at the astrology, looking at the intuition, all of that he was going to have trouble the first 3 or 4 months of the year. Now, I will track him more as we continue on, but to be honest with you, I've been so busy, I haven't had time to look at charts other than the clients.
Right. Well, I understand.
So I will continue now, maybe every couple of months we could talk about his chart and what's going on. And I could also do the U.S. chart, the show. And the U.S. chart also indicates, because we were born under a Cancer sun, in July of 1776, but we were also born with the moon was in Aquarius. And what are we doing now? We're going through Aquarius. So all of this rebellious energy, the humanity waking up, this is part of the dynamics of the chart of the USA. But I will keep an eye on that, Maria, and keep you posted and the listeners posted.
Right. Oh, I'm just curious. I don't even know if we ever had a Gemini as president before.
Yeah, we've had several Geminis. The last one was JFK. He was born May 29th.
And we know what happened to him.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of speculation on that. But let me bring up one other point. I mean, I'm listening to, I think I sent you this one, Maria, Robert David Steele, the former CIA operative. And he has got a very interesting take on Donald Trump. Now, he's doing the rounds on many shows and so on. But he basically says he's an accidental president. They didn't expect him to win.
I don't think he expected to win.
No, I don't think he did either. Then this is why they surrounded him with all the Goldman Sachs people. And for those of you listening, just Google his name or go to YouTube, Robert David Steele. And what was his name? Richie Allen did a wonderful interview with him, 45 minutes. I highly suggest people listen to that because it was very informative. I thought it was very interesting because here's a guy from the inside. We know that the CIA runs everything.
Right.
And so he's talking about how and where Trump is trapped right now. Okay, because they want the banking system to go one way, they want him to create more turbulence this way. He's got his base that he's got to be concerned about, and his reputation. Remember, he's got a big ego, so he doesn't want to leave this office tarnished in any way. And so he's got that factor to contend with as well. So it's a very interesting dynamic that's going on with him and where he got himself, into this position. He did not need this.
No.
You know, a billionaire, why the hell would he run at 70 years old? He's got everything he ever wants, the notoriety,
Maybe that's
fame.
why. Maybe he was bored and figured he needed something new to put on his resume for his next life.
Yeah, that's it. That could be it. I don't know.
All I know is that I don't even understand how anybody over 50 could handle that job. Okay,
Yeah.
just physically and mentally, the drain. I mean, you've seen how many ex-presidents, even if it was just 4 years, they age about 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
20
Oh,
to
yeah,
1.
sure.
Do you know what I mean? Well, let's look at this month, because you said in our last show where we did an overview of the year that we were going to have some pretty intense eclipses this year. And I know we have one this month.
We have two this month, Maria. We
Two.
have a lunar eclipse.
Oh, happy
and
day.
we have a solar eclipse. So, well, you know, this month is really continuing the transformational theme. The first eclipse that's going to happen on the 10th is going to be in Leo, and it's a lunar eclipse. And it's very well aspected. In other words, it's making pretty positive connections to Jupiter and Uranus. And so this is going to be a creative lunar eclipse, because Leo represents creativity. And so we're going to find creative ways of doing things. We're going to look to art, to romance, everything that Leo represents, creativity in the aesthetics, creativity in love life, having more fun, being more playful. But underlying all this is we still have these rough alignments between Uranus and Jupiter and Saturn and Chiron. So we have to find a creative way to override this energy. And that's what's actually taking place. So that first eclipse is really saying find some fun in your life. Find something that makes you laugh. Find things that make you smile. Be around people that you enjoy, your children, your animals, whatever it is. Find something. Don't get distracted by all the heavy energy coming in and all the anger and frustration that you may be feeling or sensing.
Right.
And so that's what this lunar eclipse is all about. Now, the Pisces solar eclipse on the 26th is another one that's about creativity. But since we're dealing with Pisces, we're dealing with imagination, we're dealing with spirit, we're dealing with fantasy, we're dealing with seeing the other realms of consciousness, because Pisces is very intuitive. Not that the other signs are not, but Pisces is the dream state. Right. It is the imagination. It is feelings and knowing, that something's going on. So I would highly suggest this month, for those of you listening, to really meditate around both eclipses, the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. Just a couple of days coming into it, just sit quietly and go, universe, higher consciousness, show me what I need to see. Show me how I can make a greater difference. Show me how I can help others. This is all you have to say.
Right.
And just ask, and you'll get these messages either in your dreams, you'll get them just walking along. And just to give you an example, I was throwing out the trash the other day, and I walked by a row of cars, and I'm just looking around, just enjoying the moment. And one of the license plates said something about "Go to love." Literally, it said "Go to love." Talk about a message.
Right. Signs are everywhere, as long as you know how to stop and read
exactly.
them. Right. Joe, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us. Joe and I will be back. We're going to get more into the planets and what's going on this month, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Maria Heller. If you're enjoying this show, please consider listening to the rest of it, along with hundreds of other hours of education, by a small subscription on my site. Get over to meria.net, meria.net. You are the only thing that supports this show. There's no corporate control, and there's plenty of education on site. So please consider either a subscription or a donation to keep the work going. There are too many alternative voices out there that are being silenced because of lack of support. So if you don't want MSM to be the only mind-controlling news out there, please consider supporting the people that support you and help us all save something for the future for our children. Thank you so much.